about Francis Asbury. Many of you have heard of him, and I've heard about him, but I really didn't know much about his life. I don't know, I guess I'm behind times, but it was interesting, and I hope it will be a blessing to you as well. Elizabeth sat near the fireplace sewing. As her needle went in and out of the material, the fire crackled and popped. Her husband Joseph walked into the room. "Liz, where's Francis?" he asked. "He's around here playing. Why?" Elizabeth answered, smoothing out the material of the cloth she was working on. "Liz, quick! I think I heard the lad crying," Joseph said with concern. Elizabeth laid down the mending and went upstairs to check on him. He must be upstairs in the loft that extended over the shed. After all, their house only had 4 rooms, and so he must be playing upstairs. She paused at the top. Her eyes widened as she saw a hole in the floor.
Oh no.
She realized at once what had happened. Francis had crawled into this hole and fallen through in the floor's weak spot. "Joseph, Joseph," she yelled, "quick! The lad fell through the floor." Elizabeth raced to the room down below. Joseph kept his gardening tools under the room. Francis would have fallen on the sharp hoe, or maybe the pruning saw. In her mind, she could see him lying in a pile of blood. If something should happen to Francis, how could she go on? When Elizabeth reached the tool shed attached to their house, Joseph was already there. Relief washed over Elizabeth like a flood. There was her little Francis sitting in a big tub of ashes, perfectly fine. "Liz, I think it scared him more than anything," Joseph told her. "Joseph, your sharp shears and other tools." Elizabeth left the question unasked. "The funniest thing, Liz, I moved them. I usually keep them right where the lad fell, but for some reason, I moved them over there." His arm pointed over to the corner a safe distance away. He continued, "I had just put this barrel of ashes here recently." Elizabeth picked Francis up and took him in. As she helped her young son wash off the ashes and get into clean clothes, she thanked the Lord for saving Francis's life. Her mind raced back to the time right before Francis was born. That had been another miracle. Those were troubling times when England had been in upheaval. Prince Charlie had landed in Scotland and was determined to fight and take over the throne. All the Catholics were thrilled at the prospects of having a Catholic king. An army of men joined him, and every day the fighting got closer to London and southern England. Many were paralyzed with fear. Homes were burned down. If the Catholics took over, would they be able to continue having prayer meetings? When Mary I had ruled, hundreds had been burned at the stake. It seemed that they were all holding their breath, waiting for the disaster to happen. Prince Charlie was defeating everything in his path. That is when the miracle happened. When he was only a few miles from London, this Catholic prince suddenly turned around and left the country. No one knew why. As Elizabeth's mind was full of thoughts, she smoothed Francis's hair and rocked him. She had almost lost him. And yet, she remembered the vision she had about Francis. During those times when all of England was in an uproar, she had a vision about her unborn baby. Although he was the son of a common gardener, he was going to be a great religious leader. When she awoke from her vision, the feeling was so real. She must do her best to train him and guide him. Francis grew to be a serious, quiet child. When he was 3 years old, his only sister died. As Elizabeth's heart was broken, she poured herself even more into her son Francis. While other mothers were singing lullabies to their children, she was rocking him to sleep with hymns. "Francis, come here, child," Elizabeth called. Francis's hair was wet and slicked down. His knee-length pants and button-down shirt were clean and ironed. He was ready for school. "Kneel here, Francis. We will pray before you walk to school." Francis's blue eyes were troubled. "Please, Mother, I don't want to go to school. The other students make fun of me. Couldn't I just stay here?" Elizabeth put her arm around Francis. Her eyes searched his face. "No, Francis. Your father is working hard to pay the 1 shilling a week for you to go to school. We have high expectations for you. Your father wants you to have the education that he never had." Francis sighed and knelt to pray with his mother. Minutes later, he slowly trudged down the road to the school called the Snail's Green. Once again, his stomach was upset. When he walked into the schoolyard, a group of older boys were standing by a tree. Well, well, if it ain't the old Methodist parson, sneered one of the boys. The others began laughing. They were always happy for the extra excitement. Have you said your prayers yet this morning, parson? Squeaked one of the younger boys, trying to impress the others. Francis wiped his clammy hands on his pants and tried to ignore the taunts. As he passed, he could hear the group still discussing him. His parents have all those meetings in their house. Another boy added, that's what I hate. Those Methodists think they're better than anyone else. They say that you can live without sinning. Imagine that. Francis knew that it would not get any better once school started. The schoolmaster, Master Taylor, did not like him and never did protect him from the other boys. This day, Francis was blamed unfairly for something. He knew that it was useless to tell the teacher that it was not his fault. When he saw Master Taylor reach across his desk for his leather, Francis could feel his heart beating wildly. Master Taylor was known for the hard beatings of his students, and Francis was one of his least favorite. The class roared with laughter as Francis was made to lean over for his whipping. Francis clenched his teeth as Master Taylor brought the leather down again and again with force. When the school day was finally over, Francis cleared out his desk and carried all of his things home. His back and legs felt sore from where he had been beat, and his ears still felt hot from the humiliation. He was just tired of it all, tired of the jeers and taunts, tired of being made fun of because he would not lie and cuss like the other boys. He did not ever intend to come back. He was quitting school.